Hi everyone! Today I'm going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of teaching online ESL. So for some context, I started working at Sear English in 2017 and then I got hired at SABC, which they closed. They're no longer a company any longer. And I currently work for ClassTalk. Now today I'm not going to talk about any one of those companies in particular. I'm going to be talking about the online ESL teaching industry kind of more as a whole. And so if that's interesting to you, then hang tight because we're going to continue. Alright, so let's get into the advantages first. So, first advantage is that you can get hired fairly quickly with a lot of online teaching ESL platforms, unlike a lot of other jobs. I can't tell you how many interview processes I've been through in other industries where it can take weeks or even months to find out if you were hired or not, whereas with a lot of the online ESL teaching companies, you will get an answer within a couple weeks and you'll be able to start working with them within a couple weeks if you do get hired. Okay, the next advantage is that you don't have to go anywhere. You can stay at your house and teach, which is amazing. You don't have to be spending money on bus tickets or a bus fare or spending money on gas for your car in order to go and do your job. And you're also saving a lot of time as well, right? You're in the comfort of your house. You can just kind of relax and not have to worry about all the time and all the money you're spending by commuting. Okay, number 3 is that most of the materials are already provided for you most of the time. So there could be some exceptions to this, but in general with online ESL teaching, they give you the material. So they don't expect you to know exactly what level the students are at, especially if they're new students and you haven't taught them very much yet. Or if it's new students every class, some companies are like that too. They don't expect you to know what level they're at or what to teach them. Okay, they're going to give you that material most likely, and you'll have it right in front of you. This could be a disadvantage as well if you're someone who likes the curriculum making aspect of things, which I guess I do, but I also don't mind that I don't get to do it with a lot of the online ESL teaching platforms, because then I don't have to kind of guess what I'm supposed to be teaching if I'm not exactly sure what the curriculum looks like in the country where I'm teaching. Okay, number 4 is that if you live in North America, the timing doesn't usually conflict with other stuff at most of these companies. The vast majority of these online ESL teaching platforms mostly have students from the East. So for example, a lot of companies specifically work with Beijing, China, or other parts of China, or other parts of the East. And so if you live in North America, you have a completely different time zone. You're 12 hours behind. And so you're normally working during your evenings or your mornings. You're not usually working in the afternoons. Personally, for me at ClassTalk, all of my shifts are in the evening. So I usually work from about 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. It depends. It varies a little bit, but that's usually where I work from, or those are usually the timings I work from. And so the odds of that actually conflicting with other stuff are very low. Or if you do teach early in the morning, it's likely going to be earlier than school or your day job or the time you've got to get your kids to school or things like that. And so that's the nice thing as well, is that you don't have to worry about it conflicting with other things. I've had so many times where other jobs or other school and work commitments have conflicted, but I don't remember a single time when my online ESL job conflicted with something else, because it barely ever happens. Okay, next advantage, and this could be a great advantage for you if you're a bit on the younger side or you don't have as many qualifications, but you still love teaching and want to teach, and it's that you don't need as many qualifications to teach as an online ESL teacher than you would need to teach otherwise. So in North America, for a lot of places, you need a bachelor's degree and 2 years of teacher's college in order to be able to teach. And there's so many teachers and not enough positions to teach in a lot of places. But for online ESL tutoring platforms, you don't usually need to have the teacher's college. You usually need to be pursuing a bachelor's degree or have a bachelor's degree. And sometimes for some companies, you might need some online ESL certificates, but these certificates are usually very inexpensive, especially if you go get a Groupon for these little classes, and then you can finish them in a weekend or two, right? It doesn't take a very long time to get the qualifications you need. And so it's a lot easier to get hired as an online ESL teacher in terms of education-wise than it would be to get hired as just a regular school teacher in a lot of the same places. Okay, and the last advantage would be the pay. So the rates of pay on a lot of these platforms is competitive. Now, you do have to be a little bit careful with this one because there may be some platforms that I don't know about that really don't pay well at all, or that pay less than minimum wage potentially, right? Because you're an independent contractor for these companies, and so they don't have to treat you the same way they would have to treat you if you were an employee for them. However, a lot of the places pay a lot better than in-person teaching would, or a lot better than minimum wage, certainly. For example, even at the worst paid place, that I've ever worked, which was SEER English, they still paid the equivalent of $13.50 US an hour. And considering minimum wage is only like $7.25 an hour or something like that, still almost double minimum wage for the absolute lowest starting salary at the lowest paid company that I've worked for. At ABC, the starting was $20 US per hour, and the highest with all your class bonuses was $25.50 an hour. Now, keep in mind, I don't think that company exists any longer, and so that doesn't really matter so much anymore. And as for Class Talk, the starting salary is $37.50 US per hour without class bonuses. So that's pretty good as well, over 5 times the minimum wage. And I even know some teachers, not just US or Canadian teachers, but teachers from around the world who have said that they get paid more per hour, they have a higher hourly salary from online teaching ESL than they do from their day job. Now, their day job may offer other benefits, which the online ESL teaching platform doesn't, so there are some drawbacks here too, but I do think that goes to show how competitive a lot of these wages are. Okay, now let's get into the disadvantages. So first disadvantage, especially if you live in a big city and you have a very small apartment or not a very big space, is that you have to set up a space in your house the way the company wants. That space has to be fairly quiet, and so that can be difficult if you live in a small house and you have kids or pets who are often making noise. That can be a little bit challenging. Now, if you only live with other adults and you have your own bedroom and your own space, that's not usually such a big thing, unless your bedroom is extremely small. It's usually something that is manageable, but oftentimes you don't really want to be using a ton of your very limited space in your house or your apartment to set up specifically for work. Now, of course, this can vary. This may be a very big deal to some people and not a big deal at all to others. So it just depends. But that is kind of a drawback, especially if you live in a big city or if you don't have as much space to work with where you live. Okay, the next 3 disadvantages have to do with the fact that you're an independent contractor and that you're not usually an employee when working for a lot of online ESL teaching platforms. So that's definitely something to keep in mind, is that you have to do your taxes yourself, right? Because of that, you have to do your taxes yourself. They won't give you T4s because you're an independent contractor and not an employee. And because of that, there's no guaranteed bookings, right? A lot of times when you get a different job, there's guaranteed bookings. They'll tell you, okay, so we're going to guarantee that you will work at least X amount of hours per week. We guarantee you that. For a lot of these online ESL teaching companies, they're not going to guarantee you that. You'll get booked when you get booked. So you might get really lucky and get booked a lot, or you might only get booked a little bit, or you might get booked a little bit at first and then more and more and more. It really just depends on the company. And some companies are faster than others than getting your schedule fully booked. And in some companies, your schedule might only ever really get 3/4 of the way booked. So it just depends. The next one also has to do with that too, and it's that their policies for taking time off are not usually the best. As an employee, you would have to have a certain number of days that you would get to take off as paid vacation days, or you'd get sick days. You would get 4% vacation pay otherwise. It's for certain part-time scenarios. Like there's laws kind of around the policies for taking time off. Whereas with the online ESL teaching community, depending on the company you work for, some of these policies might not be very good because of the fact that the company who you're an independent contractor for gets to choose that, and they can basically say whatever they want. So they could say that, oh, if you miss one class or if you cancel one class, you're out, you're done. And that is the most extreme case. That wouldn't normally happen, but I have heard of that happening at certain places, unfortunately. Or sometimes there will just be a very, very big penalty. You take one day off because it's a big emergency, and then you lose a whole bunch of bookings for the next month. And of course, this wouldn't happen at every single company, but that could happen, and there's very little that you as an independent contractor could do about it if it did. And the other thing is, I guess this is pretty self-explanatory given that I did mention it's self-employment, is that there's no benefits package. So, of course, you wouldn't get like healthcare coverage or dental coverage or any other coverages or benefits really that you would expect to get if you were working as a teacher full-time for the city or for the state or whatever the case is. And so that's the other thing, is you're not going to get any benefits package. You're a contractor. If you work, you get paid. If you don't work, you don't get paid. It's as simple as that. So those are all the advantages and disadvantages that I thought of, but especially if you worked in this industry before or if you work in this industry now, if you can think of any more advantages or disadvantages, please feel free to put those down in the comments, or if you disagree with anything that I said, any of the advantages or disadvantages, also feel free to let me know in the comments. And that's it for now. Bye!